My name is Dennis Cass. I'm a teacher from Chicago. I teach sociology. My question is about women's rights in Islam. Knowing and agreeing that there's every culture on the planet has problems with equality in women. We discuss and talk about all the issues that you discussed with us in all these different cultures, but how does the Muslim community here deal with human rights violations for women when it's happening sometimes in the name of Islam in Afghanistan and Pakistan with women's education, Malala Yousafzai? How do you deal with that here as a Muslim community, as Muslim women?
Thank you so much for that question. It's just exactly like the Americans would deal it in America. So living in a country like India, where we have a law for this country, where we have Indian law, where we have the Indian constitution, which gives many provisions and protection to the women. If we find that the women are being mistreated by a Muslim or a non-Muslim, we would definitely approach the law and make sure that the law protects our women. Islamically, we go a step beyond this. What we do is we keep conducting talks like she gave the talk now. We try to educate the wrongly practicing Muslims that if you are a Muslim, you should bow down your will to the will of the God. If you are a Muslim, you are the slave of the God, and a slave has no right to act upon his own will, but he has to surrender his will to the one to whom he is owned by. So based on this, we try to educate the Muslims not to mistreat your women, not to harm them physically or otherwise. But if you observe, brother, again, as you said, the Malala case, recently I was reading one Urdu newspaper in India, and they pointed out something. They said in that newspaper, as Americans, as Westerners, as Europeans, it's very nice when you highlight a problem of a girl like Malala, but what about Afia Siddiqui in the USA? Where a lot of Muslims, both from Pakistan, Afia Siddiqui and Malala are from Pakistan. So the Urdu newspaper, it gives an analogy to say that many a times what's happening is a particular incident is being highlighted out of proportion and many other injustices being meted out at other corners are sidelined. If it's done by a Muslim, it's a big media issue. If it's done by a non-Muslim, it's in the corner. So even these things, as educationists, you being an academician, you need to highlight these things in our society. We need to, I'd say you and me actually together, we need to educate our media. Not to be biased, not to discriminate between the societies, because this has hurt a lot of sentiments of the Muslims. But naturally, you see, if you have ignorance in any community, the ignorant would not react like you. The ignorant would not behave like an academician. The ignorant would be more sentimental and emotional in his reactions. So it happens the same with the Muslims worldwide. Anything happens against the Muslims, the media shows it. There is a spontaneous reaction, spontaneous emotional, spontaneous reaction from the community that somebody is harming us. And that is how the media is always projecting everything. So based on this, how do we deal? Absolutely like an American would deal. We would approach our law agencies, we would take help from them. As a Muslim, I step ahead than everybody else, trying to educate our people. But believe me, in India, the non-Muslims do more crime against the women than the Muslims. Because a Muslim is afraid. I know if I am going to slap her, on the day of judgment, I am accountable for it. I have a threat of that accountability to me. I would never do that. If I am abusing her, I know. On the day of judgment, I will be asked about it. But when you do not have a concept where you are accountable to the Almighty God on the day of judgment, now you are free, do anything, who cares? Unless you are caught. As a Muslim, it's only media who highlights that. In India, the dowry problem exists. Who introduced dowry to the society? Muslims? No. Muslims have a concept of dower. It's opposite totally. In Islam, Surah Nisa, Surah number 4, Ayat number 4. Very easy reference again. Chapter number 4, verse number 4 in your language. Surah 4, Ayat 4. It says, a man who marries shall pay a dower to his wife. It's so clear. If a man is marrying, the woman has the right to demand from the man the dowry, which is known as dower. We can't demand dowry. Who demands dowry? The non-Muslims. Unfortunately, the ignorant Muslims are doing the same thing. And poverty many a times, ignorancy and poverty, lack of education and poverty together, when they come to somebody, the person forgets his religion. Money becomes a religion. Material world becomes a religion. And it's at that time you find everybody does the crime. What we do, we approach the law agencies, we educate through our programs that women should be treated on equal terms. When I say equal terms, I do not mean identical terms. We are equal but not identical. I hope I answered your question.